Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 7 of the Halloween Craft Countdown, where I'm sharing 20 spooky themed papercraft projects to make with your Cricut over 20 days. Now, every time I do a craft countdown, I try to put one sort of big showstopper project into that countdown, and today that is the project. So you can probably tell from what's in front of me that this is gonna be impressive. I'm gonna try and tilt it round. Look at this 3D haunted house. It is so detailed and amazing when it's all built up, and you can just about see it's lit up too. If I turn off my camera light a moment, tilt it around again. There you go, it glows, and it glows all the way round in all the windows around every single side. This is an ambitious project. You can probably tell if you look at the length of this video that it's going to be a long one. But if you're up for the challenge, it's definitely worth it because this looks so good. And it's something that you can treasure and bring out every Halloween to display in your home. The nice thing is it looks gorgeous from every side, so you can even use it as a table centerpiece, and no matter where someone is sat, they'll get a lovely view of your haunted house. Let's get started. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the Halloween Craft Countdown at craftwithsarah.com/HCC24. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/HCC24 bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Halloween Craft Countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. The download comes in a zip folder. You will need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into Cricut Design Space. This is what the SVG file looks like when it's loaded into Cricut Design Space, so you can see all of the pieces out throughout the file. If you're not sure how to get to this stage, check out the schedule page for the Halloween Craft Countdown and look for the Foundation Learning box near the top of the page. Within there is a link to a separate tutorial and video on how to upload SVG files within Cricut Design Space. Now, one thing I just want to say before I get started on this is I've changed this file a little bit from the time I've recorded to the time that you actually will get the file. So I just want to point out the things that are going to look different on my screen than your screen so you don't get confused. The file should load in at 30.5 inches wide and 52 inches tall, but I will show you how to resize it to match the base that you'll be using in a little while. Zoom out and say the things that are different in your version is your grass is going to be a little bit longer. That probably won't notice too much on the screen, but you're not going to have all these little thin bits of white underneath the fences. Once they were cut out, I realised how small and fiddly they were, and they weren't really making much difference to the overall effect, so I've removed those in your one. And also you'll see one extra fence piece in your version too. So if you're looking at yours on the screen and just noticing that it doesn't quite exactly match mine, that's why I just made a few tweaks to make it easier and better for you to be able to use the file. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to my original screen recording and we'll have a little look at what needs to be done before this is ready to cut. The first thing you'll need to do is to choose some sort of board, a circular board to put your haunted house onto. This will make it much more sturdy than just having it on one little circle of cardstock. I'm using a cake board for this. I've bought a 10-inch cake board, which I am going to show you how to measure to make sure that your haunted house design in Design Space will end up at the perfect size for whatever it is. And I'm going to show you that and also just talk a little bit more in the next part about different types of board that you may wish to put your haunted house on, or if you don't have one, how you can create something custom. This is the board that I'm going to use for my haunted house to go on. This is a cake board and let's see how thick it is. I was going to guess and then realised I actually had a ruler. So it's about 12 millimetres or half an inch thick, and it's sort of cardboard based, so it's really lightweight, but it's sturdy. It's got this silver on it, but that's okay. We'll be covering that up with cardstock. And this is a really great base to use for this haunted house because they're quite cheap to buy. You can pick them up for just a couple of pounds, and it means you can move your house really easily. It's all going to stay sturdy. It's going to give it more stability when it's displayed, and it's just overall a great option. Other things you could do are polystyrene bases, if you maybe can't get these cake boards, or if you want to make one yourself, you could take some old cardboard packaging, for example, old Amazon boxes or something like that, and either use your Cricut to cut out the base that you want in the size you want to make it, so the green circle, and then trace that around your cardboard and cut it with scissors to size. You'll probably need 3, 4, maybe 5 different circles that you then glue together to make it as sturdy as this. You could also use cereal boxes, but again, you'd need quite a few of that to make it sturdy. It just depends how much you want to do, really, how thick you want to make it. If you do the cardboard, you might want to tape the edges with some kind of, I'd say not shiny tape, so not sellotape. Maybe masking tape would work well because then we'll be able to glue to that easily, just to make sure all the edges are nicely joined together and to hold it all together a little bit more and just make it a little neater. You could then even paint that masking tape if you wanted to match the colour of the grass. But those are a few different options for you. This is the one I'm using. It was bought as a 10-inch cake base. But measuring it one side to the other, it's actually 9.75 inches. So I need to make my haunted house in Design Space so that the base is 9.75 inches. We'll see how to do that in the next part of this video. Now that you know the size of your board, we can resize the SVG in Design Space to make sure that it's going to fit. First, let's open up this in here and scroll all the way down until you find the green circles. There's lots of pieces in this design, but these are at the very bottom. This is to make the grass that goes on top of the board, and I've created 2 different versions for you so that you can choose which one to use based on the size of the paper that you have. If you've got 12 by 12 inch paper, then you can use the solid circle that all comes in one piece. If you have smaller paper, for example A4 or US letter, then you can use this one instead, which comes in 2 pieces, and then that will cut on your smaller paper. Then you would stick one on top of the other up to those little dashed in lines. So you see I just moved that over there. I would go ahead and do that if you're going to be using this version, because when you resize, you want to make sure that you've got this circle the right size. However, I'm going to be doing it with the full one, so I will just click those 2 and delete them. Now this actually does load in at the correct size for my base. It's maybe a little bit off because my base was 9.75 inches. Even though it said it was a 10-inch board, but maybe that's the measurement around the edge rather than across. I'm not quite sure. Okay, so I'm going to do a really obvious resize first, just to make it easier to see what I'm doing. So I'll go into shapes and choose a circle. Let's say that my board was, let's go 11 inches. I would make my circle that size and then click Arrange, Center Back. Then click the Haunted House design. Make sure that the padlock icon is closed and that all your layers are grouped together. And then you can drag them, and I probably need to move that out the way a little bit. Drag it on the corners and resize the whole thing until your circle base perfectly fits in that new circle that you've done. So that is looking pretty good for me. And that way I know that everything has resized together so it will fit an 11-inch board. Okay, so now let's actually put it back to the right size, which means you can see me resize it again. So my actual board is 9.75. So let's make this a little smaller. That's pretty close. A way to check is to click on that green circle layer and then you can see. So actually that's still a little big at the moment. Go slightly smaller. Click that green one, 9.838, so still a little bit too big. I'm going to keep going until it's super close. 9.73. Now it's slightly too small. 9.74. One more. You don't have to be completely precise because the fence around the edge will help if it's a little bit too big or too small. There we go. I'm going to go with that. All right, now I can delete that circle. And then there are some score lines in here that we need to format. I'll zoom in a bit to make them easier to see. Click on the whole design and ungroup the layers by pressing the Ungroup button at the top of the Layers panel. And now we're going to look through the Layers panel, and all of these pictures here are all single layers. They don't have score lines. So keep looking down, keep looking down. We're going quite a long way. You'll see some spiders and some spider webs. And then after that, there is a little layer which has, in the Layers panel, an arrow next to it. These arrows show that something has a score line that needs formatting. Click the arrow and you'll see it opens up so that you'll have a main shape at the bottom and then either horizontal or vertical lines on top. Or in some instances, it might have some of each. If you don't have a scoring stylus or scoring wheel for your Cricut, you can delete these lines by clicking the trash can icon at the top, but it will make it a little bit harder to make the design without those score lines. If you do have a scoring stylus or scoring wheel for your Cricut machine, click on just the one layer that is those vertical or horizontal lines, and then under Operation, change it to Score. Then click to select that whole mini group. So you see I've now got two layers selected, that bottom one and my new score lines. And then at the bottom of the Layers panel, press Attach. Attach is what tells the Cricut to do the scoring on that particular piece. And now we can look all the way down again until we come to the next layer that has a little arrow. Click on the layer of just the single lines, change it to Score, click to select them both, and press Attach. And then we're going to scroll down again, find the next one, and just keep repeating this until all of them are done. There are quite a lot in this design, so it may take a little while. I'll just do a couple more whilst I'm talking away so that you can see it done a few more times. So I'm scrolling down, I'm finding one, clicking on that layer with the single lines. You can also tell if you've got the right one selected because it will appear lime green in the colour over here. Change it to Score. Click to select both of them and press Attach. Alright, so I'm going to go through and work my way through the rest of these. You see I've got quite a lot left to go, so I won't make you sit here and watch me do every single one. I'll go and do all of those and then come back and show you how it looks when we go to cut it out. Okay, so I haven't actually finished doing the scoring yet, but I thought I'd show you a little trick along the way to make it a bit quicker. You can see I've got 6 separate shapes here, and each of these is a mini group that has a score line, but each of these pieces is exactly the same. So what you can do to make it easier is click on 5 of them and delete them, and then just format the score line on one of them. So change it to Score, click, and then Attach. And then you can press the Duplicate button at the top of the Layers panel 5 times, to make 5 copies so that you'll end up with 6 again in total. And that's just a little quicker than formatting those score lines for each of the 6 original pieces one at a time. I've now completed all of the score line formatting, and I know this because when I scroll down all the single layers, there's now none left at the bottom that have that little arrow next to them to show that they're in a group. Instead, they've all been changed into these separate attached layers near the top of my layers panel. So this would now be ready to save, definitely save, because you've put a lot of work into this at this point and you don't want to have to do all that again, and then cut it out from cardstock. A couple of pointers for cutting this design. For the main houses and the roofs, I would use quite a sturdy, thick cardstock, perhaps 300 GSM. In the UK, we measure in GSM. I'm afraid I'm not quite sure what that would translate to in pounds. But yes, sort of 250 to 300 GSM would work well, because this has got to stand upright, and if you use really flimsy card, it might not work quite as well. These yellowy layers would look really nice when cut from gold if you didn't want to use yellow. For the actual decorations, such as the window frames, windows, the bats, spider webs, fence, that can all be a lighter weight card, as well as the grass and the main circle, because that's not going to be stood up. The exception for it, I guess, might be the white fence, because you might want that to be a little bit sturdy and thicker. But generally, for decorations, it doesn't matter so much. Some of it is the same colour as the outline bits. If you're using a thicker card anyway for the, for example, the roof bits here, then it means the other bits in grey will be cut out from that thick card. But things like the yellow and the brown, it doesn't really matter what thickness you use. All of the blue pieces can be cut from blue, but what I would actually recommend doing, especially if you want to add lights inside of your haunted house, is to cut them from a translucent material instead, such as tracing paper or vellum, or even some kinds of butcher paper or parchment paper if they look kind of white and semi-transparent. That way you'll get a lovely glow from your lights inside the house. If you're not going to light up your house, then do them from a solid piece of cardstock instead. Blue is probably a good colour if you're going to be doing it that way. Some of the pieces are really, really small. For example, this crow is tiny. Some of these spiders, very small. Spider webs, very small and very thin. So you may need to kind of play about with your settings to get them to cut neatly. But don't worry too much if they tear a little bit, because it's a haunted house. It's supposed to look, not quite perfect. And as these are only decorative elements that can go anywhere on the house, you could leave them off if you're having trouble cutting them out. I think that's all I had to say about this. Make sure you don't lose any of the pieces when you're cutting it out. And yeah, let's click make and see what we've got. This slight off-white colour that I've got, I would actually cut from white card. I just made it a slight off-white in the design to make it easier to see. You can change the paper sizes in here if you want to, and click and drag to move things about to take up less space, although actually that is filling the card very well. Then I got my pale grey for the path outside the house. Then we've got a mid grey, there's a darker grey, and then a brown, a yellow or gold, green, the blue, which would be my vellum or tracing paper, a purple, and a black. So it's not actually too many colours, and most of the shapes are fairly simple to cut out, with the exception of a few trickier ones like these spider webs. So yes, there's lots of pieces, but actually it shouldn't take too long to cut out. If you maybe give yourself an hour, hopefully that should be enough. So go ahead, get everything cut out, keep those teeny tiny pieces safe, and then we'll see how to put together the haunted house. I've now got all my bits of the haunted house cut out, but we're going to start by putting some of the smaller pieces together just to give us less chance of losing anything. So this is going to be the windows and also the door. I'm using Bearly Art Glue for this project. I like it because it dries quickly and it dries really strongly, and also it doesn't bend or wrinkle the card like some glues can do. Or another good glue is Collall. So these are my two favourites. The Collall I put into needle tip applicator bottles so that it's got the thinner nozzle. I've already glued together these 4 windows along the top, these 2 and these 2. You can use the Design Space screen to see where all the layers go, but I will show you how to do it just with one of these other windows that matches these ones and also the door. These 2 go together in exactly the same way. If I turn them around, you can see here's my tracing paper that I've stuck on the back, which will help diffuse the lights that go inside. And then this one also is the same. This one doesn't have any vellum behind it, and nor does this tiny one. Okay, so what I would strongly recommend doing is lying all the pieces for all these windows on top of themselves before you start gluing, just to make sure you've got everything in the right order and with the right bit, because there are lots of similar pieces and you just want to make sure that you've got it all the right way round and all going to be in the right place. So here's one of the windows. The black goes at the bottom and then the brown on top. This just glues right on. You can line it up along the sides like that. That makes up the window frame. And then I've cut my yellowy pieces from a slight kind of matte effect gold, which I think will look really nice, especially when it's glowing from the lights inside. And these just glue onto the top too, to give it that ornate sort of gothic feel to the windows. And then I'll turn it upside down, add some glue around the edge, staying fairly close to the window cutouts, and then glue the tracing paper or vellum, whatever it is you're using, on the back. Push down gently so your glue doesn't smush into the visible area. And then the door's very similar. Got black on the bottom, brown on top. There. And then the gold on top of that. There's that door. And I'll turn it round. Add a little bit of glue around the window. And then, oh no, I've lost it. There it is. Trying something see-through on a white table is not the smartest idea. But there's that little bit to cover the window. And I kind of feel like once those are done, the rest of the project feels a lot less daunting because we've done most of the sort of smaller pieces for the house decoration anyway now. All right, these can move all the way over to one side. And we'll start, where shall we start? I think that the roofs are going to be a good place to start. We'll do the tallest pointy roof first, which is the one that will have the weather vane on top. So you'll need both of those pieces that make up the weather vane. So it's the bat with the north-south, and then one that is west and east as well. Then we've got the 3 pointed triangle structure pieces. And then for the pieces to hold them together, you want to find the piece that looks like this, and you know if it's the right one to use because it's got a little circle taken out of one of the sides. If you compare it to the one for the other roof, they are very, very similar. So make sure you don't get them the wrong way around, because whilst they are similar, they're not exactly the same. So for this one, the pointed roof, make sure you've got the one It's very small, but in one of the sides you can clearly see a circle. And then you'll also have two similar circle pieces that look like this, except one is bigger than the other. For this roof, you want the smaller one. The bigger one will be for the other roof. And then for the structure pieces, put them in this order. So number 1 is the piece that has this slit in the bottom section. Number 2 has a slit in the bottom that's smaller and a slit in the top. And then number 3 has only the big slit in the top. All right, we'll do the weather vane first because that needs to attach to the first structure piece. So this just slots, put the smaller one over the other one and slot it down, and that just stays there. And it's sort of intended to move about a bit like kind of a weather vane kind of thing. But if you wanted to, you could add just the tiniest bit of glue. I will do it just to show. Just the tiniest bit of glue in that slit. And then when it slides over, it will be a little messy. Actually, take a little bit of that off. Then when it goes over, it will stay exactly in place with that glue. So I'll just hold it there for a moment and let that dry. The glue does dry clear, so I'm not actually worried about it leaving marks or anything, and it's such a small area, it's not going to notice. Then get your first piece of this structure, and we're going to glue the weather vane to the top along that little bit along the bottom. So just a tiny bit of glue on there, like that. I have to hold it up now that I've glued the rest of it in place. Put it on the top. Clear that glue up. This is not a project for keeping clean hands. Alright, so when that glue has dried, take your second structure piece, which is the one with the holes top and bottom. Slide it over the top, and it'll go right up to where you've put that weather vane. I'm calling it a weather vane. I'm not sure it actually is a weather vane because it's not weather, it's directions. I don't know what to call it, so I'm going to keep calling it a weather vane. And then hold those flat against each other. Take the third one and slide that over as well. Go all the way in. Then you end up with a 6-sided roof. And then we can start adding the stability with the little circle. This is going to slide in and then go all the way to the top, and then I'm going to try and show you. You've got these little slits. You can just see there where my fingernail is. Try and get it a bit closer. These little slits are going to go into the ridges on the edge of this circle. If you've done any of my other slot together designs, you'll be familiar with this concept. It's very hard to show on camera what I'm doing. I'm going to put this circle in, and then it's a bit of a sort of wiggling around challenge to get them into place. Just going to work through them. Sometimes you might find when you put one in, another one pops out. So be patient with it. Try not to tear anything. And eventually, all 6 sides will be slotted in to that circle. And then the circle should be flat along the top, and it's held in place with those slits so you can shake it and it doesn't go anywhere. The bottom is a little bit different. This one, we've got these hook shapes on the end of all the pieces. You can see it there. And these will hook into these holes and the little edges along the bottom. So I'll do one. Oh, this is so hard to show. Okay, so I'm going to push it down, put that little slit through, and then the hook goes over, and then pull it through. So it's a bit like a clothes hanger almost. And you'll know when it's in because it kind of clicks into place. So I hope you can see that is now hooked into this side and it's holding it in place. And then we can do the same with all of the others. So it's sort of a hook over, pull it through, and then slide it back until it's held in place. This is actually easier to do upside down. So again, hook it in, back first, then through that rectangle, and then pull it into the slot so that it's hooked in place. Then it's not going anywhere. Then I'll do the same for the other ones. Be very careful as you're going not to tear the card. I've just bent it a little bit, but it didn't tear. Now I'm on the last one. This is one of the trickiest things of the whole haunted house. If you can master these little hooks, you're good for the rest of it. All right, those are now all in place. Again, my circle is now flat and it's held in. This isn't going anywhere. This is what it looks like. Now it's ready for the sides. The sides of this one are these pointed ones, 6 in total. They all look the same. I'll take one of them. And then it's got a score line down the bottom. So hold it so that the side that's scored on the card is facing upwards towards you. Turn it round and then fold inwards along that score line. Now, unlike a lot of my slot together designs where you slot in the top and the bottom and it holds it in place, for this one we are going to need some glue. And it will kind of distort your card a little bit along the sides when you put it in. These side panels are slightly too large for the edges of the roof, and that's intentional to stop any gaps from showing, and it just makes it look a little bit better. To put these in, slide the pointy bit in at the top, like that, and then we'll add some glue, or you can use double-sided tape to the bottom, and then tuck it onto that base all the way through until that tab is hidden. Now I'm just going to hold it there. You can put your finger in one of the other ones, hold it in place till that glue's dry. See, there we go. There's that little tab in there. And then you see it's got that slight bend on it as it goes in. If you're like me and you're impatient and don't want to hold it to wait for the glue to dry on each side, you can use a paper clip. Just put it over, hold it in place, and then we'll take them off at the end. There we go. So I'm going to pause this video now and go and put all the other sides in exactly the same way as this one. Here's my roof all finished, and here are a couple of tricks for if you're struggling to get these sides in. First is to make sure the top bits are pushed in all the way, and that will help. And also the little corners down the bottom are designed to kind of pop outwards. They will naturally try and tuck under the sides, the black sides, but try not to let them. They should sort of star themselves outwards to make these points, and that helps them to fit in. The last one's always the hardest to put in because you've already got all of the others sort of pushing against the structure. I used a ridiculously thick card for this grey, but I still managed to do it. The thinner the card you've got for the grey, the easier it will be because you'll just have that bit more room. And also with slightly thinner card, they'll naturally bend a bit easier, whereas this one, because it's so thick, the sort of natural bend that it was designed to do isn't really doing it as much. But even so, you can see it all still fits in really nicely. There's very few gaps in there. And it's our first bit done. I suppose the second bit if you count the windows. Whilst we're on a roof roll, not a Rick roll, it's a roof roll, let's do the next one. This time we want the one with the downward piece first, then the one with 2 gaps, then the one with the gap in the top. This one doesn't have a direction vane, I still don't know what it's called, so we don't need to do anything before we start slotting these on together. That one goes on, hold it flat, and then the third one, then we've got our 6-sided shape. And then once again, the circle, the solid circle, will go in the top. And this one will hook onto the bases. As that's exactly the same process as we did on the other one, I'll pause my video and go ahead and do that. You can ignore these little tabs along the bottom for now. We'll sort those out once we put the structure together. I've now got the circles inside. You can see there my top and bottom ones. So next it's time to thread these bottom tabs into this piece. And it's going to go through these vertical holes along the side. Now you'll notice that one of these sides has got a semicircle cut out. This is so that when we make the other part of the house, it will touch up against here and lean against it. When you put this together, one of the sides is shorter than the others. So if you look at them, most of them have this little sticky out bit that looks like a curve. One of them doesn't come out as far and it's got a big straight vertical edge on it. See, that's that one, and that's what all the others look like. So this one is shorter. The shorter one needs to go in the slit next to that semicircle. So I'm going to do that one first, put it through the gap, and then fold it along the score line so it will roughly hold it in place. And then go through and put all the other ones in to the slits. Now you could just leave these as is, but it's not going to be very secure if you do that, and they'll be in danger of popping out. So what I'm going to do is take some trusty old sticky tape and go over each of these. First, make sure that it's pushed through, and at this point you can double check that you have got the shorter edge on that curve, and you'll know because it doesn't go over the curve, it just goes right up to it. So you know that that's the right one. If you'd have put it in any other order, the pointy bits here would be coming out into that curve. But that one looks good. Make sure the tab's pushed through as far as it'll go. Then add some tape. Make sure that the tape doesn't go over any of these holes because we'll need those. There's all of those taped on, and when you're doing it, it doesn't matter if they face left or right, it doesn't make a difference. You can even mix and match, which I've done, I think. Right, there's that one, and then we've got sides to add next. There's one with a window cut out. I've already stuck the vellum behind. One with a little hole, which is where our chimney will go. and then 4 that are the same. We'll start with 2 of the ones that are the same, and these will go either side of that semicircle cutout. These have several different score lines on them. The first score line that we come to with valley fold. So we're making a V for valley. Then the next one along this top bit will mountain fold downwards. So this one goes upwards like a mountain. It's the opposite of our V. So we've got V and then mountain shape. And then the little tabs along the bottom, they'll be folded away from you too. So also mountain folds. The fold goes at the top, whereas with valley folds, the fold is at the bottom. I hope that makes sense. Okay, then take one of the sides next to the semicircle, and we'll thread this through the hole. Now, I've been having a little bit of problem with this particular card and these points on the end where my card actually didn't cut very well. So I'm just slightly snipping off that point, and then it seems to go through the holes better. But that is entirely just down to my particular card that I've chosen because it's really thick. So slide that all the way in. And then we've got this going inwards and thread the holes through. It might actually be easier to fold the bottom tabs after they've gone through the holes. Not quite sure. Yeah, I think now they're going to be a little bit tricky now that I've already folded them. They keep wanting to pop out again. Right, got them in. So this is what we're aiming for. It goes down and then out. And then on the bottom, make sure your tabs are pulled through all the way. Mine are trying to disappear. And then tape them down. You definitely want to tape these ones because they are quite small. Right, that's one of the sides next to the semicircle. The other one will do exactly the same thing. So valley fold that first one. Oops, throwing it away now. Mountain fold the next one. And then I'm going to leave my tabs this time and see if it's easier to fold them after they've gone through. In there, push it through as far as it'll go. And then those, oh yeah, that was much easier. Okay, don't fold those bottom two until it goes through the hole. And then fold them over. I don't think it really matters if you fold them forwards or back. Backwards towards the edge. I've just tried both ways as I was talking, and backwards towards the edge actually seems to hold it a little better. So it's the opposite way round to what I did it on that first one. Right, 2 sides are done. Now, with the semicircle on the right hand side, the next one to fill in down the bottom is going to be the one with the window cut out. Before we do it, let's add the window. It's this little one. And this is why I didn't have a piece of vellum for it earlier, because it was on the back of there instead. That makes total sense. Ooh, I'm going to do that fold first, so I don't accidentally stick it where it needs to be folded. That can go right up along the score line. There we go. And then mountain fold that one, and then that will go in there. And then the next one will be a plain one in that one. Then this one over here, that will be the one with the circle. We'll do that one last because that needs the chimney added. But the other plain one will go in this side. So if you look at the semicircle, we've got plane, plane, window, plane, chimney, plane. I'll go ahead and put these other ones in and then come back to show you how to do the chimney. Here are the bits we'll need for the chimney. These two ghosts, and I've just put them on one of my building pieces so you can see them easier. The little black circle, our last remaining piece of the roof, and then this piece with all of these score lines on it. And we're going to fold along the score lines, but fold towards yourself. So this side with all of the scoring on that the actual cricket scored on is going to be on the inside. The only exception to that would be if you've used card that's only pretty on one side, in which case you can do it the other way. And we're sort of using these folds in order to create a cylinder shape for our chimney. So you see as you sort of fold around, it goes round and eventually creates a circle. So I've got my biggest tab side, covers up about 3 of the folds on the other side to give me my circle. I'll glue this in place and then hold it for a while, or use a trusty paper clip, because I think this will try and undo itself. Oh, that was probably a little bit too much glue because it's all smushing out. To try and keep it fairly circular, I'll put that on until it dries. You can see it ends up kind of matching the shape in there. I actually haven't stuck that quite right because my tabs aren't lining up. Let's try again. These 3 tabs should end up in all separate places. I think what I've done is I put my glue over slightly too much. So I went 1 fold too many. It's fine, it'll wipe off. While that's drying a little bit, we'll do the ghost. So these will go one on top of the other, and then the black bit gets glued in the middle to cover up the eyes and the mouth. It's very small. That one there. Oh no, I've got glue on my house. That was a silly idea, wasn't it, putting it on that? Never mind. Then a little bit more glue. Stick the other ghost on top. There. Okay. Take your roof piece. We'll do our folds, the valley and the mountain, just the same as all the others. And then poke this through. It should fit in there nicely. Turn it or rotate it until you've got a place where your tabs are all going to come out and be able to be stuck, and then you can either glue them or tape them. I think I'm going to do a little of both. Hold those in place and do that one. Okay. Because I've used both hands, I'm just going to stay here for a moment, let that glue start to get a little bit tacky. And actually, I don't think there'll be a need for tape. That should be fine, as long as I hold it long enough. There, and then the ghost can either just slot in, or you can add a little bit of glue to the sides to help it stay in position. Just down the edge, both sides. Line it up to where you want it to go. Just push gently. And again, I'm going to hold that until the glue dries. Then I'll put it into that final side in the roof. Here's my little ghost and chimney. And then that roof is now all finished, which means we can move on to the first main part of the house. This one is going to be the tool section. So that's the one that goes with this roof. And just to make sure you've got it the right way round, the two for the other one have got tabs along the bottom with little square cutouts. That's how you know that they go together. Whereas this one is taller and it doesn't have that. I'll start by going down this score line. Again, I've used super thick card for this, probably slightly too thick. So to make this easier, I'm going to go down that score line with my brayer. Get it nice and crisp. The basic premise of this, really simple, it's just going to curve around and stick onto that, and then we'll sort of push it out like a toilet roll tube to make it a cylinder. But it's going to be easier to glue the windows on first. Got 1, 2, and 3, and that one's for the door. I don't seem to have any vellum for this one. I am wondering if I lost it along the way or if it doesn't have one. If it doesn't have one, I'll double check the file, and if it doesn't, then I'll add one in so that you've got one. I can't see it anywhere, but it is kind of transparent, so yeah. Alright, I don't want to add too much glue to the edges of these, because when it goes into the circle, the cylinder, it's going to try and pop these off, just because of the changing dimensions. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue, kind of following where the glue went on the vellum. Just a little bit. So these black bits sticking out don't have any glue. And then line it up so that the window bits line up with the holes. They might still pop off when we roll it up, and that's okay. We can glue them on again if they do that. I think I'll actually glue the windows to both of these houses on now, and then it means they've got a little bit more time to dry. I'll just go down a little bit vertically on this one, line that up along the bottom. Make sure it doesn't go any lower than that line, horizontal line. Otherwise it won't stand up straight. And then this one definitely feels like it's missing that little bit of tracing paper. No, I definitely don't think I've got it anywhere. I'll cut one out later and just glue it on the back of the house. Okay, let's let those dry. Do these ones as well. So this is for the other house. And this is our 5 windows that are all the same. Do the same thing, just the glue around the edge of the cutout. And then let's do this first. And then glue them on. So as of this time of recording, it's been 1 hour and 35 minutes since I started recording, and we're still a long way from finishing. When you watch the video, it will be shorter than that because I edit out all the mistakes I'm making, and also you'll have the bits, you won't have the bits where I pause the video to do repetitive bits. And of course we'll speed up a lot of bits too. But I still think it's going to be pretty long. I've obviously got some glue on my work surface because I just got that on the outside of the house. Because I've got all the little decoration bits on a different desk behind me, Sort of feels to me now, looking at my whole filming desk, that I'm coming to the end because now I've put all the bits on that I've got in front of me. But if I turn around, there's all those other pieces still to go. Right, those can dry. Bring this one back. Now, I have a feeling these are all going to pop off when I try and turn it. We shall see. And I'm going to try double-sided tape down here up to the score line, but I'm also going to then glue. The tape's nice because it gives you a bit of an instant hold, but my particular tape isn't all that strong. So I'm also going to put some glue down in these little lines. So it's sort of the best of both worlds. A little bit of glue and a bit of that instant hold from the tape. Okay, let's see if this pops off. Turn it round. Sorry, I just realised you couldn't see what I was doing at all. I'll zoom out of it as well. There we go. Alright, so I'm curling it round. I'm going to go up to that score line. And then make sure the top and the bottom are nice and equal. And then while that's still not quite dry, push it a little bit till you've got a nice spherical shape. Remember, we're aiming for the sort of toilet roll tube effect. This is what I meant by these windows and doors popping off. It just needs that extra space. It makes them look more 3D because we just glued down the middle bits. They seem to be staying on so far, so that is good. Might take a little bit of playing around to get a nice circular shape. Little squidges here and there. It doesn't have to be perfect, which is good because that definitely isn't, but it looks good anyway. And then just check that fits into the roof. If not, we'll have to squidge it up a bit, but it does. A little bit of a tight squeeze, but that's on purpose because that's all that holds this roof in place, is just it sort of squishing on to the body. But I'm going to take it off again. There's one more thing to do, which is to add a little bit of decoration around the top. Got 3 gold pieces that we'll have cut. 2 of them have tabs on. These are for the other building, so let's get rid of them. The one without the tabs on is for this one. And this is just for a little bit of fanciness. And it'll also help hold the roof in place and stop it going down too far. And I obviously didn't quite stick this right because my sides aren't touching entirely when I wrap it round. So let's do it up against the join line, then it won't notice because the other house will be up in its place. Alright, glue on the back. Oh, you can see. I thought I had you out of shot then. I've been talking so long my voice is going croaky. This is also the 3rd video that I've recorded today. So I've been doing lots of talking. Alright, so I'm going to line this up. Here's my join line. My seam around here. And it doesn't need to come down very far. Just about 1/2 centimetre away from the top. Then the roof will go on and then hopefully not go any further. I'm trying to pull it tight so that they touch, and I completely misaligned it because I wanted the join to match up with the seam and it's over there, but never mind. By pulling it tight, it should help it go into the shape that we want. There's that one. Okay, I'm not going to add the roof right now because it'll be easier to thread this through the base without the roof on. And that's what these tabs are for. I'm making a mess with my glue. I'm going to wipe my table down. If your windows and door popped off when you were doing the sphere-ring, cylinder-ring, I can't even think of words anymore. Just glue them back on. But there's that building done. And now I think I'm going to take a little break for today, and I'm going to come back and finish the rest of this recording tomorrow. Okay, it's the next day and I'm back to do some more on the haunted house. And rather excitingly, I found the missing little bit of parchment paper. So I just stuck it down inside the tube to cover the hole. So that is great. We've got the second building to make today and we've already stuck the windows on. So we can do the rest of it now. We've got these 2 tabs on either side, which I've already folded and then gone over with my brayer tool. And then we'll glue down one of the tabs and then stick the other piece up. It doesn't matter which way around you do it. And just make sure you've got it lined up nicely along the top and bottom so it's straight. I'm going to give that a moment to dry because otherwise if I try and wrap it round and stick it together while that's not quite dry, it's just going to come apart. I might actually stick these bits on now rather than with this one. I did it when it was put together. I think it might be easier to do this one now. So this one, they go right to the very top, whereas with the other one, we put it down a little bit. You see here, we've got the little rim, which was to allow the roof to go on. But on this one, the roof is going to sit on top of these little tabs. They'll be folded inwards like that, and they'll appear in the middle of the cylinder. So actually, yes, gluing these on now will be easier. I'm still croaky from all my video recording yesterday. I've also got hay fever, which does not help. It's been particularly bad this year. 1. That's lining right up along the top. And then the second one. Just going to overlap it very slightly. There's a little bit coming off over the edge on this side, but that's okay, that'll cover up when it's all stuck together. Okay, still not quite dry, but what we'll be doing is again taking it round into a cylinder shape and then sticking that tab over on there. Add some paper clips to hold that in place. Here we go. All right, now I'm going to hold this in my circular position while the glue's drying, just so it kind of tries to keep that shape that we want. And don't worry if when you let go it does go out of shape. You see mine's trying to close up. By the time this is threaded through the base and glued in these tabs, that'll hold it in place a little bit better. Next, we'll be moving on to putting the buildings through the base. And if you've done the one where this comes in 2 pieces, then glue them one on top of the other first. We've got the main house, which will go through this one. And I'm doing it with the big space here at the front. So I've got the big circle on the left, the little one on the right. I want my door to be facing the front. And then, where are all my little tabs? These are going to go through each of these holes. This is a little tricky. It might be easier just to put a couple through and then glue them and then do the rest. So I've got 2 of those through. You can either tape them or glue them. Make sure the tabs are pulled all the way through before you stick them down. Right, this is a little hard to show on camera, but But you can sort of see what I'm doing, just getting them all threaded through and then taped down. So I'm going to do the rest of them and then we'll move on to doing the other side. This is now stuck in and I've got all my tabs taped down. Although I've just realised that actually one of these needs to be shared with the other house. Not quite sure it's going to fit in there. Maybe I should have stuck it facing the other way. So that's this one here. Maybe I'll tuck that one inside. I think what I'll do before you get this file is make this one hole a bit bigger because it's got to have the tabs for both of them on it. And I think at the moment, it's just that tiny bit too small. All right, so I want to line this one up so that one of the join lines, choose whichever one is not as neat as the other one. So for me, that's probably this one. And then that's going to go up against the join line of the tower. And then the tab underneath that join line is going to go in that same hole. So the one that's sort of here. And I have a feeling mine's not going to fit, so I might need to cut it bigger. But for yours, you will have the hole already bigger. Let's give it a try. Just about gonna go in. Yeah, you're definitely gonna want this hole bigger. All the other ones will be alright. It's just because this one's having two different bits from each of the houses in it. Doesn't quite go through all the way. Yours should fit better than that. Okay, then I can go through and just do exactly the same thing, put all of the tabs through each of the rest of the holes and tape them in place. We are getting there now, so that's that one in as well. There's all my little tabs taped up, and now I can glue this onto my base. That's going to go right on there, and that will hold it all so securely in place. It's going to need a lot of glue. I'm trying to make sure I've got glue over all of where these tabs are, just to make sure they are going to be really well stuck down. Right, there's that. Looking good. Now we can start on the edging of the board, which will be the fence first, this picket fence. And you're looking for the sort of bigger bits that have the base along. These are not designed to go in any particular order, and also they're not really designed to match up with each other, because I wanted to make it look like the fence was falling apart. They don't match up exactly, and you can have little gaps in them, and that's sort of intended to make it look like it's all sort of falling apart. So I'm gonna put, I think, this one around the front. Obviously the front bit is the one that you really want to focus on, looking as good as possible. That's the bit that will be seen. And I might trying to decide where I want that gap to be. I might do a couple of gaps around the front so it looks more purposeful. Okay, so I'm adding my glue on here. And then that will go onto the side of the board. I'm probably going to need to hold this in place for a little while for that glue to dry. Okay, I'll do a little bit next, I think. Leave a little gap so it looks like that's all breaking. Don't worry if some of these don't quite go to the top of your board. You can't see at this angle, but I can still see some of the silver along the edge. When we add the grass on top in a moment, that'll cover up any bits that you can still see. And then I'll go for this one. Again, I'll leave a little gap. The grass goes all the way round and will completely touch, so any gaps you're leaving in the fence, if you can still see the board through, that'll get covered over by the grass. I don't think I've been leaving the gaps quite big enough because I'm going to have loads of space left. Okay, what I'm going to do is add another fence in the one that you get, so that if you do it like I've done it and not left very big gaps, then you'll have that extra one. So you don't have to use them all if you don't want to, but it will just give you that option should you wish to. Got my last one, and what I will do once I've stuck this on is just pause my video recording and go and cut another one of these just to fill in the rest of the space there. Otherwise, if I add the grass, then I won't be able to fill in that gap because the grass will be in the way. And I don't want it to have a big empty space. This is looking so good. All right, I'm going to go cut another bit of fence to go in this gap, and then we will come back shortly to do the grass, and then we've just got all the little fancy decorations. I've now added in an extra bit of fence, so my fence is going all the way around, and I realised that actually there is a gate bit here, which is the bit that doesn't have the base on. Now, by sheer coincidence, I have actually lined it up in kind of the right place. But it would have been easier to do that had I put in the little pathway first. So I haven't quite got it right because that will line up and then go all the way to the edge. And it wants to sort of sit there, and I've put my gate there. So I'm going to just tilt it round a bit and stick it there and then cut off the excess so that it looks right, and then I think that'll be fine. So when you're doing it, if you're following the instructions on the blog post, it will say to stick this on before doing the fence, but never mind. There's always so many steps to remember when doing a 3D project, and it's been, I would say, about a month or maybe even more since the project was originally designed. So trying to remember all the little steps in the right order is quite difficult. There we go. And I've got my little gate that can open and close. All right, grass time. Got 4 bits of grass. These are going to go all the way around the edge. Glue them on top of the fence so it'll cover up the sort of tab bits at the bottom of the fences, and then because this goes all the way around with no gaps, it will cover up any bits of your board that are still showing. There's only the tiniest bit of overlap on these ones. When you get it, I'm going to make them a bit longer so that you can overlap them a bit more. I'll just do it. Oh, I don't know why I only just put glue on that little bit. That's not going to work, is it? Yeah, for mine, I'll only overlap from the tiniest bit so that it reaches all the way around. There. One more. Well, 2 more, but 1 more right now. There. And the final one. Hopefully this is going to be enough. It is just about good. But so I will make yours a little longer so you've got more wiggle room for overlapping it a bit more. There. Right, I'm going to try and tilt this. That's how it's looking. All the way round. Here's my very front. So good. So at this point, you've actually kind of finished all of the important bits. The rest of it is all just sort of decoration. Now, you might notice at the start, I had all of these thin bits to go on the fences. The idea was to stick them along the sort of picket picket lines, these bits, to give it a bit of depth, but I could not work out the lining up of them, and they're really small and fiddly, so I am going to not use them, and I'm going to remove them from the file that you get. I sort of explained a little bit about that at the beginning, so I'm not going to worry about those. For the roof, you got this one with the circle bit that just balances on there, and it should stay in place because of all those tabs. If you want to, you can glue the tabs and then glue this on, but then you won't be able to open it up to turn any lights on and off. So if you're using lights, don't glue it. What you could do is use some Velcro or other non-branded alternative, what do they call it, hook and grip, I think, to put a little bit on each of those tabs, and then the other side just on sort of 4 bits around here so it lines up, and then you can Velcro this on so it'll stay on a little bit better, but it does balance on there quite nicely. And then the other one, this slots on over the top, pushes down a little bit to hold it in place, and then you can just pull it off again when you want to turn the lights on that one on and off. This is going to be really hard to show. I'm trying not to bend my fence. How cool is this? It looks so good. Alright, so now we just have the extra little decorations to add, and you can leave these off if you don't want to use them. It's completely up to you. We'll start with the sort of hanging upside down witch's hat. That's these 4 pieces. I've got a dark grey and then my black. We'll start by gluing the circles, one on either side of this one. There we are. Then we've got the little hat shape. It's got some score lines on it. Fold in one, and then the little tabs will come out. And then we'll sort of fold it round to make a cone and glue a little bit where it overlaps. So we're making a witch's hat shape. And this is going to need some holding in place until that glue dries, because it's going to want to come apart. So try and get a point at the top. Fold it round to make a little cone hat shape. And I'll hold it for a while until that dries. Fold those tabs over, actually outwards, and then this is going to stick on to the back of here. So we're making that witch's hat shape. Might be easier for us to fold this bit up first. Going up, and then these little bits get folded in along those score lines. Then those bits will go over themselves, and then this will sort of fold inwards so it ends up that way round. This is really hard to show on camera. So small. Okay. So I've got my little rectangle and the big rectangle. They'll be glued over each other. Hold that in place. I'm going to wait for that to dry, and then the witch's hat shape, you can bend the card so it ends up underneath. So you end up with this kind of thing, and then bend it round again so that the hat brim ends up looking like that. Then this will attach to the house by gluing this rectangle on, and the witch's hat shape will be stuck to the bottom. It's going to look like a little hat hung up outside. I want my join line to be at the back, so the side with the rectangle. Okay, so I've glued the witch's hat shape on top of there. So I've now got this little hanging witch's hat try and show it to you from different angles so you can kind of see what it's doing. And then I'll add some glue on the back of here and put this onto my house. I'm going to place it on the wider body building shape around here, just on the top left of that window. But the nice thing about these decorations is you can put them wherever you want. And if you don't want to use them, that's absolutely fine. I'm putting mine in a place that's hopefully going to cover up a little glue smudge I did when I put the window on. There, so a bit hard to see. That's what that looks like. We've also got a lantern to go above the door, and that is these 4 pieces. First, let's take the yellow. And yours will be gold because I changed the colour to gold, which I think looks better than just having one random yellow bit, and it means you don't have to find another sheet of card. Folding inwards along all those score lines, then there's a little tab on one side. There it is. Glue down there and glue that in, so making a sort of 3D triangle. Again, that's going to need holding until that dries. And that's the problem with these little fiddly bits, is that they try and come apart. So you'll probably end up, like I'm doing now, getting glue all over your fingers for these bits. Okay, then the tabs will fold inwards on here. So you end up with that. Leave that one for now. Do the same sort of thing with the black shape. This one will be even harder for you to see because of the dark colour. So I'm going in on those score lines. There's quite a few. And again, it will tuck into itself on that last little tab. So glue down there. And fold it round. Oh, I'm not doing a neat job at this. The 2 tabs at the bottom will fold inwards, and then on there, glue the black square. It's going to make the kind of base of our lantern. It will overlap on all the sides. And hold it down firmly so you try and get it flat, because this also has to stick to the top of the lantern shape. So tiny. Got the lantern with those 2 tabs folded inwards. Glue on those. And then that will go the other side. And again, hold it flat. You see, it's sort of starting to look like a hanging lantern, like it's all lit up. And again, I'll hold this in place until the glue dries. I may be here a while. Now we've got the little bit to connect it to the house. There's a score line along the top. Fold that upwards, and that's kind of how it will attach to the house on that little tab. And then on this bit, we're going to kind of bend it gently round and twist to look like a hanging sort of metalwork, and then that will go into the top of the lantern. So what I'll do, you'll need a needle tip applicator bottle for this. Add some glue inside the lantern, and then this will thread through. You might need to squidge it in a bit. I had to bring that closer to my face so I could see what I was doing. So I've sort of forced it in, and then that glue will hold it in place. You might need to squidge it in, pinch it in to make it smaller to fit in the hole of your lantern. And there we go. And then this can be glued to the outside above the door. My glue's going on the back of this tab. It's not a lot to hold it on. It should be enough. I want it going in front of the door. And I'm going to put it just to the side. So I've put that on there. My glue has smushed out a bit, so I'm going to try and make it neater. Good old trusty weeding tool to just get that bit of glue off. Okay, there's my lantern added on there. You can just about see it. We've also got a little scarecrow to go outside, and on your version I've made this a bit bigger because that bird was just way too small. It did cut, but it was tricky. I'll glue the grey onto the brown, and then the little bird on top. Then the base has got a score line, fold it either side, either way, it doesn't really matter. And then that's how it will glue on to your base. There it is. Now we've just got a range of bats and spider webs. These can go wherever you want them to. The bats, it's nice to fold them down the middle. Don't need to be exact, just anywhere down that middle bit. And then you can glue them wherever you want them to go on your haunted house. I'm going to put a couple on the roof. I know you can't see what I'm doing now. I'll just add some glue down the very middle because I want those wings to stand out. And then put a few around various places on the house. I'm going to avoid putting any on... Oh, you can't see. Let's try zooming out. There we go. I'm going to avoid putting any on these bits, these two bits, because that's where the roof for that one sort of... Oh, actually, it's not too bad. Okay, I thought it overlapped more than it did. So actually, I can put my bats on there. There we go. Let's go for another one around the back. Don't forget the back of your house as well. Let's go one on the side. We've also got some spider webs. You can sort of put these wherever you want to as well. They're tricky to glue, so I've just put a little bit in the middle. Put one on there. It's a bigger one. Put that. Where shall we go? I've got a lot of space down here. I've put that down there. There's also a spider web that comes with a score line so that you can fold it and make a sort of 3D effect. So that'll be glued on somewhere. Where shall I put this one? Oh, no, I don't want it on there. Let's go there. Trying to pay attention to how it looks mostly from the front. Obviously, that's the way you'll see the most. And we've got 3 little spiders. I'm going to tuck the legs up a little bit to make it look a bit more 3D. Now I've zoomed out, you really can't see what I'm doing. Add some glue to that. Put some spiders in place. That looks like a giant spider now. On the front, I think. Don't have anything on the front yet. And then one final spider. There. Ooh, it's stuck to my fingers. There we go. And now I've just got 3 bats left. And then that's done. Oh, I think this is definitely in contention for the longest video I've ever done. It was fun to make though, and I hope you've enjoyed watching along, even if it's been a little bit of a marathon. You don't have to add all these on, but seeing as I've got them cut out, I'm not going to let them go to waste. One little bat left. Okay, now I don't want to pick this up and tilt it round because I don't want those bits to fall off before they've glued. But you can see from the top a few of those that are now on there. And if you go to the tutorial, then I'll add lots of pictures on there of the finished thing. The only thing left to do is to add some lights inside. I'll take these off. You can use any type of battery-powered fairy lights or LED candles or anything like that. Just make sure it's something that doesn't get hot. And look what I've got. 3 lights that are all so tangled up. I'm going to need to just pause this and get my untangling on before I can show you this. I have untangled that horrible mass of lights. Now I can put these in. And we'll need 2 sets of lights, 1 for each of the buildings. Put that one in. Let's turn it on. Oh, it's such a nice glow. Some of them can go up into the roof because we've got the window in there. Oh, when I tilt this round so you can see it, it looks so nice. And then 1 more to go in here. For this one, there aren't any bits in the roof, so we can just sort of balance that there. And then slide, let's get it the right way round. North facing. I haven't quite put that on right, but oh, there we go. Just to show you. And then when it's tilted, see it's starting to light up. If I turn my camera lights off, hopefully it will show a bit better. There, look at it all glowing. And it's all the way around, all the sides. Don't worry that that roof is not quite fitting. It's just because of how I'm trying to pick it up. All lit up and beautiful. And that's the haunted house finished. Well done if you've made it to the end of this video. There it is with the lights on again. I'm really happy with this. I think it looks really cool and definitely an involved project, one for when you've got a lot of time, but it looks absolutely amazing when finished. I like that the roofs come off because that will mean then it's easier to store, and I'll probably put it in a plastic storage box, you know, like one of those under the bed boxes to keep it safe until next year. I hope you enjoyed this super long video on how to make a 3D haunted house with your Cricut machine. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Halloween crafts, which are a fair bit easier than this one. And I hope to see you again tomorrow for day 8 of the Halloween craft countdown. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!